Welcome to today's webinar, courtesy of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. Discover no-cost, valuable business services to help you thrive, whether starting your entrepreneurial journey or scaling your existing business. We have the resources and expertise to help you succeed. For more information, please visit our website or text 502-977-5800. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or engage with our speaker. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Toolkit Tuesday. So happy you could join us today. It's a big day here for Toolkit Tuesday history. But as always, I'm joined with my good friend and coworker, Janet Flaw. How are you, Janet?
Hi, I'm great, Dave. We're going to be talking about the superpower today, so I'm excited. Excited for our guest
Exactly.
today.
Exactly. It's going to be big. But before we get there, let's make sure everything's working and you guys can see us and hear us. If you look at the bottom of your screen there, you should see the little chat button. If you click on that and just tell me your name, where you're joining from, so I can make sure there's people out there. I can see you popping in, but I don't know if there's anybody out there breathing. So just say hello and where you're from, because it's always interesting to see where everybody is. So, Miss Queen, Jessica, Louisville, Robin, Shepherdsville, good to see you. Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Art. Deborah Paducah, Chicago. Steve, how are you, Bob? Steve Bob. We've never met, but I'm going to be in Chicago here in a couple weeks. So I got you on my list to look you up, see if you have some coffee, and we'll get acquainted. So, hey, Brad from Hoptown. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Um, today is a big day. You know, we at the SBDC, if you don't know, I'm Dave Etkin, at the director here, but you know, the things that we do, we help people, start, fund, and run their businesses, help you get set up and find funding and things like that. And I always tell the people that I talk to that the things that we do from zero to start are easy, setting up an LLC, getting all your tax numbers, finding an account and all that stuff. It sounds like that's the hard part, and everybody focuses on that, but that's the easy part. The hard part is getting from zero to your first customer. That first customer is the biggest mountain you've got to climb. And so it's always important to really to lean on resources and people that know how to do these things. When we start a business or we're running a business, we know the craft. That's what we do well. That's what we're doing. But we may not be so focused in on and have the skills to really market your business in a good way. So I've invited my good friend, Cynthia Lee, who is the CEO of Cyn Lee Sales, and also she's a community engagement director with Amplify Startups, and she's a fantastic resource. She helps people all over the place, really focus in hard on growing their businesses. So, Cynthia, how are you today? Pop in there with us.
Hey, hey, hey there. How are you?
We're doing great. Good to see you as always.
Good to be here.
So, Cynthia, I really appreciate you helping out today and sharing with everybody, because this is a big subject, and you really know how to teach the skills here really well. So I appreciate you sharing today. Oh, and you muted yourself too accidentally.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
So let's just hand it off to you and let's get going. But if you have any questions or comments, and Cynthia's not just a talk in your face teacher, you're going to have to do some stuff today. So we're going to put all that in the chat. Cynthia and I will both be watching the chat. So this is, like I always say, this is a great opportunity for you to engage with and talk to and ask questions to a real expert, someone who can really help you with your business. So don't miss out on that. Use the chat. Don't be shy. We're all friends here. So, okay, Cynthia, it's all up to you.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to share my screen so we can get started. Hey, everybody. So welcome to the workshop. It is the understanding the superpower of sales. And yes, sales is your secret superpower. So what we want to do today is really unlock the natural ability of sales. And we're going to give you some foundational elements and really help you to beef up and feel comfortable around selling more. And if you're already selling, you already have selling mechanisms, great. But we're going to dive into some of these concepts and really get clear on the things that matter as it relates to sales. Okay. All right, I'm just checking the chat. It's good to see where everybody's from. Thank you for sharing that. And let's move the ball forward. Right. Okay, so first, let me give you a little bit of background about who I am and what qualifies me to talk about selling. I've been selling literally all my life. When I say all my life, I've been influencing people to change their behaviors, right? Whether they're prescribing behaviors, their behaviors to do something, but I've been moving people to act for a majority of my life, starting at UK, where I've held several offices, influenced people to buy into ideas, all the way up to being a sales leader in the pharmaceutical sales industry. I started my track at Eli Lilly and Company selling hardcore, right, to physicians and hospitals and doctors. So I've met the toughest of the tough sales opportunities, and been able to do that both with Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, and other pharma companies. And that was fun and all that. But I tell you, my biggest sales challenge came when I became an entrepreneur and a founder. So back in 2019, I started a company called the Diverse Entrepreneurship Summit. And that was a place, it was a 2-day workshop and summit where we allow for small businesses and businesses of color from diverse backgrounds, of all sorts of backgrounds actually, to come together and learn skills and resources that they can use in their business the very next day. That was the goal. What we found from the summit was that there were 2 things that people really needed most from their businesses, right? To grow, to scale. 1, sales, and 2, infrastructure. So without infrastructures and systems, you can't grow. And without sales, you can't grow. So the 2 came together, and that's where Cyn Lee Sales was born. And I love to collect data. I'm a Six Sigma Green Belt by trade as well. Sales is literally the backbone of what I do, but I also love what data tells us because data doesn't lie. People may lie, but data does not lie. Here are just a subset of companies that I've sold to, formed partnerships with, collaborated with under Cyn Lee Sales. So I know that as a business owner, if I can do it, so can you. And that's the goal, is to give you the confidence and the ability and the know-how, right, to be able to sell effectively and efficiently to your target market. For me, my target market at the time were corporations. So getting in front of these corporations, saying the right message, understanding the context, the follow-up, nurturing them to the end and close of the sale and the deal, that was what I trained myself to do, and then incorporated those skills with these particular companies. So that's a little bit of background about my experience. All right, what we're going to get into today is understanding these parts more intricately. Significance of sales, understanding what sales does in business development, understanding the sales process and the key stages. What should you do to build rapport? And then, of course, just some conclusions and final notes. Okay. So before we get started into the workshop, I always like to do a little bit of a level set here. And what is a level set? This is really just inviting you to clear your mind and get clear about your relationship with making money and revenue. Because sometimes that can get in the way. And it's a mindset shift around believing that you can make the revenue that you want to make, that you can make the sales that you want to make, that you can convey the sales messaging that you want to convey in an effective and efficient way. So I'm going to invite everybody just to level set with me right now. And I'm going to actually invite you to do something a little different that you don't do on workshops. And that's to close your eyes. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to vision and envision the amount that ideally is your goal amount for where you want your business to be. What is that revenue number? I want you to place that number right now in your head. And it could be amount of dollar revenue that you want to achieve. It could be the number of customers that you want to see in a quarter. Whatever that number that is attached to a goal for your business, I want you to envision that number. And I want you to see it clearly. I also want you to take a deep breath, breathe it in, and feel confident that you can achieve that number. Breathe it out. I want you to think about what feeling comes up for you when you have achieved that number. Is it a feeling of achievement, of freedom, of success? What is the feeling that you know you will have when you've reached that revenue number and you accomplish that goal for yourself? That number that's in your head. And I want you to think big, okay? Don't give me 100,000. Give me something big that is like big, hairy goal, right? Like that is unimaginable. Think big about what you can accomplish. And I want you to feel what it feels like to accomplish that goal. Take another deep breath in and exhale and open your eyes. The goal for that vision is that I want everyone on the call today to make sure they have a vision for where they want to go with their business revenue goals. What are your sales goals? If you haven't established sales goals, that's the first place to start. What is it that I want to make? How much do I want to make? And getting real clear and clarity around what the goal is so that you can set your North Star and work the business, right? And create the business mechanisms from a sales strategy perspective to reach the North Star. Because without the North Star, you're going to flounder. And we don't want you to flounder. We want you to have a clear roadmap to sales and sales success. For today's call, I would love to take questions, and there's no question, right? That's too basic. None. There's no question that should be intimidating. Ask me anything. This is what I'm here for. I'm also a coach and consultant for multiple businesses across the country. This is what I do. I also like to incorporate something called a hot seat coaching at the end, so that at the end of our time together, that if you have pressing sales questions, you give them to me and I'm going to offer a solution or answer as best to my knowledge to be able to do. Okay. So if I put in the chat, just have everybody think about what's the one word you feel when you think about sales. I'd love to just see that in the chat. What's the one word that comes to mind when you think about sales for your company? Is it frustration? Is it behind? Is it anxiety? Is it money? I'd love to see it in the chat. And Dave, is our chat open? I just want to make sure everybody's got access to it.
Yep, they're putting it in.
Perfect.
Can you see?
I cannot see it. I'm pulling
Okay.
up. Let's see. Yep. Okay. I'm seeing it. No, not just yet. Okay, it's coming in. Yes, thank you guys.
There we go.
Why do we have to sell? I love
Yeah.
that. I love that, Queen Charles. Yes, marketing, energy, money. Thank you. Thank you guys for sharing. This gives me an indication of where everybody is in their mindset around money. Win-win. It is a win-win. Rejection. Yes. Yes. How do we overcome objections and rejections? This is a great one. Good. Okay. Thank you guys so much for sharing this. This is a lot of sales is about confidence, right? And just moving the ball forward. And sometimes building your confidence around sales, whether it's infrastructure, sales messaging, whatever the aspect of sales that needs to be shared up in your business, a lot of it is just about building your confidence around it and the mechanisms to support the work that you're doing. So today, we're going to change from the word that you feel, whether it's difficult or challenging, or whatever that word is, to feeling more empowered. Okay, that's the goal for today, is to feel empowered around sales. Thank you guys for putting that in the chat. Yes. What's the best way to get my first sales? We're going to talk about that. I promise. We're going to get to that. Let's talk about what sales is, because there's some things that sales is, and there's some things that sales isn't. Sales is the activity of selling products or services to customers, typically involving persuasion or negotiation? Persuasion or negotiation. So you going out to coffee and having a random conversation around your business is not sales. It can lead to a sale, but sales is involving persuasion or negotiation. So if those two elements aren't in the final conversations around closing your deals, closing your opportunities with customers, having some element of persuasion or negotiation in your call to actions, then you're technically and typically not selling. And I want you to sell. So I want you to think about how you can be persuasive, influencing, or negotiate, right, around moving the ball forward with your business and your products and services. Now, typically sales will include products or services that you're offering, right? It'll include you getting clear, but again, the clarity on your target market. And the target market really is the specific group of consumers or businesses that are your potential buyers. And sometimes I hear businesses say, everybody's my customer. I want everybody to buy from me. No, you don't. You want to spend your maximum time and energy with the customers that matter, right? And the customers that matter are the customers that have the highest likelihood to buy your product or your service. Find out who they are. Find out who they are. Get really clear on your customer avatar. And I call it an avatar because it's like, this is the stand-in for who my customer is. And for me, I typically get very clear, very, very granular on who my customer avatar is, right? That person or that thing that embodies my target market. I know where my customer shops. I know what kind of car they drive. I know what school their kids go to. I know their level of education. I typically know their annual salary. I get so granular around who my potential targets are that I have no choice but to find that particular target somewhere. And I got to look very specifically on where to find them. Okay. So that's the first thing. When you're looking for your first sale, don't spend it randomly. Get really clear on who that target market is so that you're selling to the right person. A large part of sales is getting in front of the right audience with the right message. It's really as simple as that. The other piece of sales that I want to flank here is having a sales strategy. How many of you guys, and put it in the chat, yes or no, have a sales strategy? That's the plan. I don't mean marketing plan. I don't mean how you're sharing your message. I mean the strategy around how you're converting opportunities and customers into closing business into a sale, right? Converting likes or converting follows or converting people who visit your website into paying customers. How many of you guys have a sales strategy? Okay. Something you want to think about in terms of your sales strategy. It is the roadmap for how you take customer leads, potential customers, you're talking to your target market. It's the conversion, right? It's all of the mechanisms that you put in place to convert leads and opportunities into closing customers and closing business, right? Into sales. And it's funny because a lot of times we have, as business owners, we can group sales and marketing together. And listen, I'm okay with that as long as there's a differentiation between your sales strategy and your marketing strategy, and that the two work together to close more sales and selling opportunities. Okay, thank you guys for sharing. Yes, I do. It's in my business model canvas. Yes, good job, Robin. That's what we want to see. Yes, Salesforce. Yes. Salesforce is a great mechanism to hold up and to anchor what your sales strategy is, right? Because it's a way to look at your sales all together. I love Salesforce. I've used it for most of my life, most of my professional life, along with multiple tools. And we'll talk through some of the tools as well. Okay. Questions and thoughts here. Any questions in the chat around the elements of sales, the foundational elements of sales? Okay. We'll move it on along. Okay. So the goal here is for us to really get clear what it is you want to get out of this workshop as well. Because I love to tailor like real time. I've had to change selling messages on the drop of a dime in front of customers, right? Because I'm listening to the customer. I'm doing active listening and I'm tailoring my message, right? My selling message to meet their need, right? To answer their questions. So here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to model it. So if you have a particular sales question or concern, I want to understand what you want to get out of this workshop. What is it that you hope to achieve? What from a selling perspective do you want to learn? Put it in the chat here. I'd love to see it. Love to see it. Yes, thank you. How to stand out against the competition. Absolutely. We'll make sure and address that. Perfect. Okay. Any other things? Drop it in the chat for me. I also think that it's good for you to understand how to determine your target market. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I've got it logged. I've got it logged. Person. How to get the right person and get around the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers, look, they're magic. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the different stages of sales. Thank you guys for sharing. Okay, so confidence, I've asked you to rate your sales on a scale to 1 to 10. You can put that in chat if you want to, but just know our goal is to get you to a 10, right? It is to make you feel more confident in sales. And you can have the best product in the world, but if no one's buying it, it is not a true business. I want you to increase your sales. So a little note, companies that prioritize proactive sales workflows, meaning all of the sales infrastructure and systems and operations, right? To help you close the sale in an efficient and effective way, see 30 to 50% higher revenue growth than those that don't. So if you're not thinking through what your process for sales is, I want you to get clear. Experience it as you're the customer. You should be walking through that sales process as if you're purchasing your own product or service. If you haven't done that yet, I encourage you to do that ASAP so you can understand the pitfalls, your workflow around sales, and what the challenges are for customers. Because you want to experience what your customers are experiencing as it relates to your product or service. How to keep accepting the no's without thinking you're doing something wrong. Yes, listen, no's will lead you to the yes. Can I just say that just really quickly? The no's are data points. I don't look at it as I've failed. I don't look at it as I've done something wrong. I look at it as an opportunity to grow. Your no's are going to lead you to the yes. Well, how do I say that? When someone tells you no, it's always great to find out why. Why did someone tell me no? And I call these sometimes customer discovery calls. I call them sometimes problem solution calls, or if it's a big deal, if it's a larger deal, right? Or I'm trying to close a major contract and we get to the end of it and they're saying no, oh, you better believe I'm going to follow up and try to find out what was the roadblock here. And I typically will do that by really trying to understand the customer's perspective. And you'll be surprised at how many customers are willing to do this, to give you this real world perspective, especially when you ask. Sometimes we're just not asking. So I'm going to encourage you to ask the questions. Also, mastering sales not only enhances the customer satisfaction, but it helps to identify these trends. What's happening with your customer, understanding your customer needs, finding out ways that you can adapt your business to innovate, okay? You want to be competitive and you're probably and likely in a competitive market. So ultimately, sales is going to help you be more competitive in this market for the long-term success of your business. Okay, thank you guys. This was great. I love to hear what the challenges are so we can talk to those. Okay, so the reality is that sales is essential in driving business development, right? It is crucial for generating your revenue, sustaining business, and this helps to lead to customer loyalty. When people and when your customers and your target market has a good experience, selling experience with you, it can lead to that long-term growth and sustainability that we all want. Again, this is about persuading and influencing and creating a relationship with your customer base through your products or services. And that's essentially what this is. You want your customers to feel like they are a part, right? And they're partnering with you. That's a large part of sales, is helping the customer feel really connected to you, to feel like they are in partnership with you. So let's talk about the different types of sales. Direct selling. This is selling directly to consumers. Like, this is your retail sales. This is your online sales business. This is that direct to consumer selling mechanisms. How many, by show of just like in the chat, and you can put direct, are indirect sales? And there's probably some of you guys that are in multiple avenues of direct. Okay, direct sales. That means you're selling directly to consumers. That means you could have a larger target market, right? That you've got to figure out, who am I selling to and how do I get in front of them, right? Yes, thank you. A lot of direct to consumer sales. So what you want to do is really position your product with a value proposition that is appealing to your target market. So how do you do that? You get to know your target market. You get to know who you're selling to. Find out what it is that's their pet peeves. Find out what challenges that they have, and then how your product or service is solving that problem. And the more you can communicate that in an effective and efficient way, the higher the likelihood that you're going to be able to sell, right? Speak to their pain points. And we always in marketing talk about the value prop. Like, what's the value prop for the consumer? But I also want you to think about your USP in addition to your value prop. Your USP is your unique selling position. Your unique selling position, your USP. It is how you are uniquely in your marketplace. And it's how you identify yourself as it relates to your competitors. So when you think about your competitive landscape and your competitive market, who am I selling against and how am I unique, right? As it relates to who I'm selling against in this competitive market. I want you to clearly understand that your differentiators, what are they? Is it that you have greater brand loyalty? Is it that you are, that you offer greater safety parameters? Just get real clear on what your unique selling proposition is and positioning is in your target market, and then lean into that with confidence. Let your audience know, here's what makes us unique, and we stand by it. And sometimes you can find this out by collecting data, right? Seeing where you are in the marketplace as it relates to your competitive market, or you can ask customers directly, what do you feel like is unique about us? Especially those customers that keep buying, like you've had repeat buyers or consistent long-term relationships that have been sustainable. Okay. There's also B2B sales. Listen, I love B2B sales. I feel like if you are in the direct-to-consumer space, a lot of times you also have the opportunity to be in the B2B space as well. And sometimes you can do those simultaneously. And B2B sales typically is you're selling to another business or corporation, more of an enterprise sale. Okay. Yes, B2B. We've got a couple of B2B sales. Yes. This, from a B2B sales perspective, this is where you're going to really lean into getting really clear. Again, that clarity on who you are in front of. It really does matter in B2B sales. So whether it's corporations, other businesses, business types, industry-based sales, I want you to get really clear on who it is, and then fuel your pipeline with nothing but that particular target market. And just getting really clear on what matters to the business and corporation. And again, how you're uniquely bringing them a solution through your product or service. That's a huge part of how you sell to B2B. Yes, the farm market. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. So I'm sure you're going to conferences, right? You're getting in front of other businesses and vendors that also service the farmers market, the farm market. Yes, these are things that you want to think about as you're selling within that particular market, and get really clear on like if there's a subset within that industry that you're like, they seem to gravitate towards our business or services a little bit more than normal. So we're going to really hyper focus on a subset within this particular market. That's also okay to do, right? And test that out through your sales strategies. Okay, and the last but not least is this online sales, which could be both direct sales and B2B sales, but there's a level of online sales or e-commerce through websites or platforms or other digital selling arms that is really a backbone for many businesses. And so really getting clear on the systems and the processes that get you and lead you to the sale is going to be key for online sales. I love Shopify. I love other selling platforms. I love Go High Level as a system to use with online sales. But think about what the infrastructure systems and the sales process is. Process mapping out online sales is critical for success. That means you're really mapping out each stage of the sales process to lead to conversions, meaning leading to taking the customer from someone of interest to someone who's buying. Okay. Yes, thank you. You're a caregiver. Yes. Caregiving, that market is doing exceptionally well right now. You've got a lot of selling opportunities in the caregiver market because there's both B2B opportunities, but then there's also direct to consumer opportunities that you could really tap into. Again, getting clear on who your target market is and then creating the mechanisms to sell to them effectively is going to be critical. Okay. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Okay. This is what I said. This is what I love. This is what I like to deep dive into. It's understanding the key stages of sales. And if you're not tapping on each of these stages, I want you to start considering how can I incorporate some of these stages in the process of my business? And again, this is going to help you fine-tune your sales strategy. All of these pieces and elements are typically included in your sales strategy. So let's get into it. Prospecting. So we talked about, okay, I've identified my target market. I know typically who my customer avatar is and what they do and how they buy and their buying behaviors. Now I got to find them. Who needs you? This is now your hunting phase. Now there's several tools out there that can help you do this. My favorite tool is an AI tool called Apollo.io. Apollo.io. I love using that for lead generation, but there's all sorts of lead generation tools that will help you hunt. LinkedIn actually has a great one built in called LinkedIn Navigator. I love using LinkedIn Navigator for clients across the country. And we do a lot when it comes to hunting there. But hunting is it's the way you get in front of your target market. And it's prospecting, right? It's like finding out where are they? And then what's the mechanism and the best way to get in front of them to share my selling message? So I want you to hunt. Part of selling is hunt. Now, some of us have done really well with like word of mouth, right? Or getting inbound selling opportunities. But there is also an element of outbound opportunities where you got to find new business because recurring revenue is different than new business and new dollars. And I want you to think about both as it relates to developing your sales strategy. What's the selling strategies we're using to keep customers and to upsell them or think about new products for existing customers? But what's also the selling mechanism I'm using to attract new business, to attract new customers in my particular industry or target market? I got to keep that going in order to grow. And so I want you to think through what are the two opportunities that lean into both recurring revenue as well as new business and new revenue. Okay. The next piece of this, qualifying. Listen, some of us don't do this. And I'm going to encourage you to do this. Why? Because you don't want people wasting your time. You don't want consumers who are going to waste your time or not be good stewards of the business that you're developing. You also want to make sure it's a good fit. monetarily, from a customer perspective. And you don't want to waste time on people or consumers or opportunities that will never buy. So you qualify them. Now, technically, qualifying sales is the opportunity that ensures that a business focuses its resources, right, on the most valuable leads. It involves determining which prospects have a genuine need and the capacity to engage in a transaction. A genuine need and capacity. And sometimes you can do this through having a qualifying survey, right? When a customer first comes in the door, you have a lead or you have a contractual opportunity, you have them fill out a survey or you have them fill out a questionnaire or you do a discovery call, whatever it might be. I want you to start qualifying your leads, qualifying your prospects. Because if their budget makes sense for your business, if their time frame makes sense for your business, that increases the likelihood that you'll be able to close business versus spending time on those leads and those opportunities and those consumers that won't buy. And then you've wasted time because guess what? Time is money. And if you wasted time, then essentially you've wasted money. And I don't want you to waste any money, okay? So think about your qualifying process and what that looks like. How many of you guys have a qualifying process? Just put it in the chat if you have some level of how you qualify opportunities that come into your business. I'd love to hear that. Okay. As you put that in the chat, let's talk about presenting. And, you know, some people will categorize presenting as something that I'm doing now, like I'm presenting to you, but that's not always the case. Good job, Andrea. You got to qualify your leads. It's not always the case. Sometimes you're presenting through your social media platforms. Sometimes you're presenting through what you post on LinkedIn and what your business is showing on LinkedIn. Sometimes you're presenting by the networking events that you attend and you're talking to potential opportunities and leads or consumer partnerships. I want you to think very clearly about how you're telling your story and how you're telling your story in a way that matters to the prospect. And if it doesn't, if you're just telling your story for the sake of telling your story, I tell you what, it's going to fall on deaf ears. Eventually, that's going to phase out. You've got to make sure that the story you're telling to the right market, right? The messaging that you're giving, the sales message that you're giving to the right market is essentially something that is valuable to that market. It is valuable to the person you're sitting across from. And if it's not, let's figure out a quick way to make sure that you're incorporating value. We've talked about value proposition and your unique selling positioning. How can you incorporate why this would matter to your business? Why this would be important for your business to know? Why we think this could be a good fit for our product or service could be a good fit for the problem that you're having right now or the challenges that you're having right now. This is what I want you to get really clear on. If you're not communicating that message in a clear and effective way to your target market or your audience, I want you to figure out how to do that. That clarity will be a game changer for how you navigate business and the number of business that now you're going to be attracting in simply because you're saying things that matter to the audience you're speaking to. Okay. So think about that as it relates to how you're presenting and telling your story. Big deal. Okay. And I will say this during the presenting phase, typically in sales, in the selling element, you're sharing that information about your product or service. You're sharing the value. You're sharing the things that matter. You're talking about a specific need. So you've already done your needs assessment for your target market and you really understand what their challenges and pain points are. You're speaking to those. That's what I want to make sure you're doing. Because if you're not conveying value, then it's going to fall on deaf ears and it's not going to lead to converting to sale. Okay. One of my favorite parts of the selling process is handling objections. Get really good at understanding what your frequently asked objections are. And I know a lot of us have an FAQ document for our business, right? We have that. What are customers mostly going to ask us, and how are we prepared to answer those questions? I want you to do the same for objections. I want you to get really clear. If price is a typical objection, how do I handle price objections? And typically my favorite go-to question when I get price as an objection in the selling process is, I understand that the cost may be a little bit more than you bargained for, or it might be outside of what you had planned for. But what's the cost of the business if you don't do something today? If you don't change this, what will the business look like in 2 years? What will happen if you don't change this pattern or this behavior, or if you don't solve this problem within your business? And you can say that to consumers as well. What happens if you don't buy this product? What happens if you just ignore this challenge that you're having? There's a cost to that too. And let's identify that cost and let's talk about it. So there's also this way that you can bring out, what are my most common objections? And let me list those out. And then let's talk about what the potential selling solution is for handling an objection. And I'm going to tell you what, a no is not a no. I don't accept no's personally. So if somebody says not interested, okay, that's fine. But I'm going to nurture you and I'm going to keep selling to you until the opportunity may or may not present itself. So I can't ever say that it's a no. It might be just not right now, but I'm going to set up the infrastructure and the mechanisms to continue to sell to you and continue to move an opportunity forward with the potential buyer, especially if they're in my target market, right? And I've already done that legwork behind the scenes. Sometimes a no and an objection is just a way for you to find out what's the other information that they need in order to feel confident about me selling to them, right? Is it, if it's safety, or if it's price, can I figure out a way to alleviate the challenge or the objection that they're having? So sometimes if it's price, I also will say, well, guess what? I think we can solve this price problem for you. We can map this out over the course of 6 months, create a payment plan for you, and we can solve that bulk issue for pricing right away. How about we go ahead and move forward? How does that sound? Any challenges as it relates to us moving the ball forward? And so you come up with the various solutions to handling objections. And I love having, again, that handling objections document. And I give that to my success managers. I give it to my development and intern leads that are handling objections. So they have those things right in front of them and they feel comfortable handling objections with my customers or clients, right? I think the next piece that I love to dive into is closing. Listen, if you're not asking your consumers or your customers to do something, you're missing an opportunity. So always think about your call to action. What's my ask? Am I asking people to visit my website? If you're doing online sales, if you're selling on your platforms, are you driving them somewhere? Are you driving them to your website? Are you driving them to your product or services? Are you asking them to do something? And I call this a CTA, or a call to action. And you can do this both in person, you can do this online, you can do this with B2B, but you should be driving your customers to something, right? Converting them to purchase, converting them to do business with you. Always close. Yes, ABC, close. Don't let the loop stay open. I see so many people posting on social media and they're like, we have this great product, we have this great service, and they haven't made it easy for the consumer to even access the product or service. There's no link, there's no website, there's no nothing. Don't do that. I want you to make sure you have a strong call to action. Ask your customers and consumers to do something. If you're presenting and it's a deal that you're looking to close the opportunity, ask them, is there anything that's getting in the way of moving this deal forward? Do you have any hesitations about moving the ball forward? What is it that you need to build confidence in us working together and partnering? Whatever the ask is, I want you to move that ball forward with your consumers, both online and in person. Okay. This is great, guys. Last but not least, I don't want to miss this, building rapport and nurturing relationships. This is a critical part that I feel like more businesses could do better at. And what does this mean exactly? This means being able to take a customer that may or may not be ready to purchase your product or service right now and just continuing the relationship with them, whether it's through email, right? Whether it's through continuing to meet with them on a quarterly basis. I first started working with Yum back in 2019. To this day, because I've continued nurturing that relationship, I can still call Yum up today and ask for a meeting and continue to talk about the initiatives and things that we're building here at Cyn Lee Sales. Why? Because I've nurtured that relationship over time. So if you're not continuing to look back at all of the business that you've done, the people that you've talked to, the leads that have come in, the business opportunities that you've closed deals on, and you've worked with them, and then maybe that relationship is, I want you to continue to reach out, share what's happening with the business, share case studies and testimonials, share the things that you typically would matter to a consumer, someone who you would want to do partnership or collaborative efforts with. I want you to continue to talk about your business with those previous customers as well as new customers. This is called nurturing, and there's different ways to do this. I love using email as a way to do this, newsletters, blog posts, podcasts, going live. There's all sorts of ways you can continue, right? Or just setting up meetings. Setting up quarterly meetings, setting up annual meetings, right? With individuals that you just want to keep the door open with, that you want to continue the relationship with. Don't miss the opportunity to continue to sell and upsell to customers, both past customers and potential new customers. Build the rapport, nurture the relationships. Nothing moves without nurturing the connections and building that brand loyalty through nurturing. Okay, so continue to do that. Okay, I feel like we are getting a little short on time. So what I want to do is take the last 10 minutes, Dave, and do a little bit of hot seat coaching, because a lot of what we're talking about, we've already talked about in building rapport, nurturing relationships. So I'd love to just take the last 10 minutes, right, and just do some hot seat coaching with individuals that may have a business challenge as it relates to sales and answer their sales questions.
Sounds like fun. Let's do that.
Yeah, so if anybody has a burning sales question, I'd love to take the last 10 minutes and answer your question.
Just put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat. I wish I could see your lovely faces on the call today.
I feel like everybody's in there like in classroom, like, don't call on me, don't call on me.
Don't call on me. Oh, yeah. Answering your sales questions. So if you have some sales questions, the question that I get most often is, are there any books or people that I could follow on social media that would be great? And I swear by Alex Hormozy.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
I mean, he can sell, he can sell like nobody's business. I love following his work and what he does. One of my favorite books, and I learned this back in pharmaceutical sales and sales leadership, was The Challenger Sale. Is one of my favorite books by Matthew Dixon. So when that typically will help you think about the most challenging sales scenarios, and then how to overcome those scenarios and lead back to converting to sale. To the scale. Yeah.
Noah Kagan's got a book called The Startup Weekend, and he's got a little section in there where he talks about sales as a muscle that you have to develop, actively, people are afraid to talk to people, and asking for things. So it's a pretty good little story he's got in there.
I love that. And, I used to be one of those but I had to learn by fire in pharma. We had to go through major simulations around selling scenarios. So I encourage people all the time, practice.
Yeah.
Like toilet time is the best time to practice. Like you sit there and you're like, look, am I scrolling or can I sell to myself? Like,
Right.
let me go through my sales message. Okay, it looks like we got a couple of questions.
Yep.
Question number one, is there anything you do or used to do to prepare your mind, body, and soul to put you in the space to sell? Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I like
So
that.
that's so funny because you said mind, body, and soul. Like it is that's deep, girl.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
One thing I used to do is like my best hype song and hype music before I have to sell something really big or close a really big deal. I would listen to it and I would psych myself up and envision the best outcome in the scenario. I would literally visualize it and think through what is the best outcome that I want to come from this. And I'm listening to my music, I'm visualizing the best outcome, and I just go into it with so much confidence, right? Because listen, at the end of the day, the only thing someone can tell you is no. That's it. It's a word, y'all. And it does no harm. It does no harm to you to hear no. But it can do so many things for the business to hear no. One, it can refuel you, it can redirect you, it can help you understand data about your business. Listen, the no is a good thing. Don't look at it as a negative. Okay. I hope that answers Queen Child's question. The next question I've got coming up is I'm a disabled artist who lives on disability, and I'm finding very challenging to learn to sell and close my first sale. So two things. I think you being a disabled artist is something you don't even have to call out because you're an artist. The disability matters not. The question is the product or service being effectively communicated to the right target market. If that's happening and you're able to communicate the value to the customer, that's what really matters. Learning to sell is a skill set. So I encourage you to read more, find out other people that are selling in your industry and have high sales. What are those businesses? What do they look like? How are they selling? And understand what those selling mechanisms are. The other piece I'll say here is when you're learning to sell, practice. Practice with friends, practice with family, practice with church members, practice. And then that'll give you the confidence to be able to sell and then move towards the close. Some people want the close to be a nice, clean, and pretty process. Closing is not always that. Sometimes it's months of conversations, months of iteration of deals, months of communicating and negotiating terms. But it's a process. And I want you to give yourself a little bit of grace and opportunity to learn what sales is like for your particular industry, and then moving towards and practicing closing. Alex Hormozy, Steve. I think Steve Bob was asking. Alex Hormozy. We can put that in the chat.
Got it.
Okay, what is the title of the book by Noah Kagan?
There it is, right there.
Dave, did you put that in? Okay, perfect. Okay, what is your daily tool that keeps you focused on your final goal? Oh yeah, say to get 3 million annual sales. So yeah, that's doable. I like using, there's two that I love and I live by. A lot of my customers use this Pipedrive. It's a customer management tool that we use to identify deal flow. And if you're doing 3 million, typically that's the goal. You can set that as a goal. Do a scoreboard that will help with monthly or weekly revenue goals, right? Because you want to ladder up to the 3 million by the end of the year. And then typically housing where you are with each selling opportunity and deal. And what is it that I need to do week over week to move the ball forward? Pipedrive is one. Go High Level is another one. I love Go High Level. I'm able to build so much infrastructure in Go High Level, both connecting to all of my social media platforms, building communities, all the things that I can do and Go High Level. We build this out for customers at Cyn Lee Sales, and we've done a great job of building a lot of infrastructure to enable more sales. And then Salesforce. I know here at Amplify, we love Salesforce. This is what we use to identify opportunities and collaborations. And I've used Salesforce in the majority of my career in sales in pharma. A lot of corporations use it to identify and keep our eye on the daily goal of sales. And of course, you can create automations that will help you understand, where you need to go by when and your projections. Okay. I feel like that has answered the majority of the questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This has been great.
It certainly has. This has been exactly what I needed to hear today. Wow.
Yes, yeah. There's been some sales questions here.
Before we go, just let me ask you this one question. So what would you tell everybody to do? What would be when they get done, we click off, what would be the first thing that you would want people to do after they've spent time with us today?
I think the first thing I want you to do is take a look at your sales strategy. Take a clear look at your sales strategy. A lot of times we'll build these strategies at the beginning of a quarter, and then we won't really look at them actively. I want you to be looking at your sales strategy and your sales goals, if you can, every day. Like, look at your numbers every day. That one, it'll do a couple things. It'll trigger reminders for yourself on what are the things I need to do to lead to more sales. If I'm looking at this number and this number is low and I'm staring at it and I'm looking at it and it's looking at me, it's going to trigger something in you. If you're an entrepreneur and you got to survive off your business, that should trigger something in you to help you think through, okay, this number has to change for next week.
Yeah.
And it'll lead to a different behavior. So definitely, and please look at your sales goals and then overall strategy. What's your North Star? A lot of people will come to me and I'll ask him, okay, do we have quarterly goals set up? Like, what's your end goal here? And they don't have one.
Right.
They have a great product, they have a great service, but they don't have a North Star. They don't have a vision for where they actually want the business to go. But I want you to think about that because it's going to be your roadmap. It's going to help you plan your roadmap and your strategy.
Yeah. Good stuff, Cynthia.
Yeah. This is what I love. I love this stuff, guys. So, I will likely, I don't know if you can send out the workbook, but I love to send the workbook out to everyone. On the back of the workbook and the last page of the workbook, I have a QR code if you want to learn more about how Cyn Lee Sales can support your business and help you think through sales strategy, operations, and infrastructure. We'd love to help. But then also, I also do consultation calls. Like I do free consultation calls as well, just to help people think through strategies and support, along with the Small Business Development Center, who does an amazing job as well.
Yeah. Thanks for that. We'll send a recording out here in a couple of days, and then the workbook. And really appreciate everybody showing up today. And Cynthia, as always, you are just a joy to be with and a great resource for everybody. So thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for everybody for being so participatory.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for another Toolkit Tuesday. It was good to see you guys. And we will see you next Tuesday on another Toolkit Tuesday. So have a great day today and make only good things happen. See you soon.